So the instructor would be up here, the camera's not on him. He's still performing his lines so that they can have something to respond to. And we would say action. They would do their bits, and we would have that whole part recorded, and that would be our second shot. After our wide shot that established the room, this is the second setup. So now it's 9:15 probably, and we have that shot done.
So, and just, it's easy to get immersed in the story and what you're doing, and then you realize, oh, I've got a tripod and a camera and a bunch of stuff right behind him, and it's in the shot. So just take a moment and kind of examine the shot, make sure it is what you want, and then and also set up your lighting.
Right. Come on up here a second and take a look at Cindy. Cindy's got eye shadows from her glasses from that light, which we don't seem to have an ability to turn off. Now, we could get a grip to go hang something black over it and maybe block it. But in the meantime, we could bring a light, these simple lights that sit on anything, we could bring a light over and add some lighting, and now suddenly she takes on a little bit of a better view than as opposed to just that overhead light. I don't have much of a cord to get this out where I really want it, but to give you an idea, that would be a 3-shot with a little bit of lighting without much setup, no heat, no risk of the light stand falling over because there is no light stand. That's a real simple way to shoot a 3-shot. If this room had daylight in it, the rest of the room would be lit by the windows, and this would just supplement. Unfortunately, that's all dark because there's no light in this room. We don't really shoot in this room. Okay, so there's our 3-shot. Can everybody see that? Okay, so then we run that whole scene, and then we say, well, it says Jake sticks his tongue out, tips his head back, and rolls his eyes in the back of his head. Let's get a medium shot of Jake doing that. So I know I need that shot. So we'll get that shot. While we're right over here. No sense in shooting the instructor. We're right here. Let's get that shot. And it's an easy setup. We have a medium shot, which is here to here. That is a fit. Falls asleep. And the shot only says medium shot, and it ends right there. See my bracket? So you don't really need to shoot too much of this. This is like 1 or 2. Watch your performance. Don't just accept anything he does or anything that anybody does. Really look for a performance. The idea of they did all the words in order isn't necessarily good. It has to be they did them all in order in the right tone that you want. If he gives too much of a performance and he's sticking his tongue out and he's wagging his head around, you might go, yeah, it's too much. Bring it down. Ultimately, I think the best acting is stuff where people don't try too hard. Philip Seymour Hoffman, when he was in films, he'd just sort of walk into the room and mutter. And he was so believable because he was such a great actor, but he never was looking like he was trying. He looked like we all do in real life, where we just kind of go through and do as little as we have to. Good acting is probably a little bit quiet, a little bit reserved, unless it needs to be angry or loud.
Now, would you also get him falling out of his chair while we're set up for a Jake shot here?
I probably wouldn't. I think I'm going to end up back here for some other shots with this group, so I probably wouldn't. But that you could. It certainly doesn't mean you couldn't. I think that this kind of camera is so mobile, and the light is so simple for me to move around that, if you were really working with that big giant red camera, you might want to get everything you can because you're trying to be so efficient. But I would let the scene develop first. I'd try to let the characters, he might be in a different position by the time we get to the point where he falls out of his chair, and now it won't match. Okay, so I have my 3-shot of this whole first page. I have my wide shot of the opening of the classroom. I have this medium shot of Jake. And you can just, highlight these or cross these off. Or have somebody on set with you, a script supervisor, who crosses that stuff off for you so that you know you didn't miss anything. This will all cut together because all these shots are like different shots in the same room. They all cut together. You can use shots of him, you can use shots of the 3, looking at the instructor from that first 3 shot we did throughout the whole first page. You can use that cut anytime during the instructor's talk. If you get bored with the instructor, cut to somebody else. So, now we'll do a shot of the instructor. So the instructor is up here, and we'll get a medium shot on him because we don't want to put him in close-up. He's not that important. Close-ups tend to say, this is really, really important. We need to make sure we really get them in tight. It's really emotionally big. But it's just a medium shot of him. And we're going to run his lines from his very first line to the point where Cindy texts and laughs. And that's all we're going to do on this page. So that's why my brackets go down to the bottom of that page, of that line. Okay. And you don't have to really read, just to know what you're doing, just to see what these marks mean. So you would be reading from there to here in this scene. Okay. Just so you don't have to really read right now. Just to give you an idea, that's what that shot is. So, can everybody see this medium shot? You guys know what medium shots are? It's pretty common. You guys know what close-ups are. So let's just do a medium shot of him. Now, if you do a medium shot of him from here, he's talking to the students, and here's a rule of thumb. If he has to look from them to them, don't have him look at the camera, because every time he looks at the camera, the audience gets a little shaken up by having the actor looking at the camera. So what the trick is if you tell him to use his glance over the camera, or glance under the camera to get back. But don't look into the camera, because that will really jar your audience, and you'll wish he hadn't. So the scene is being filmed with the instructor, and these guys are being talked to, and these guys are being talked to. But these guys more. So we have to establish some kind of a line. If you guys are used to watching football, you know the Broncos are going one way, and the other team's going the other way. And you know who's who. And they don't run to the other side of the field and shoot for a little while just to make it interesting, because it'll confuse you. It's like, well, Broncos were running right to left. Now they seem to be running left to right. What's going on? There's a very consistent stage direction that you have to create so that people know what's going on. So if you look at this shot, he's on this side of him, and as he looks at these three, he's looking right to left. You see how that is in the frame? He's looking right to left. So if Don comes over to here and shoots the three of them looking at him, they're kind of looking left to right, because he stayed on the same, here's the line between the three, and here's the instructor. When they look, the camera's here, they're looking left to right on the frame. When he shoots the instructor, he's looking right to left on the frame. It looks like they're looking at each other and talking to each other. If he just decides, oh, this thing, I'm going to whim, I'll shoot him from over here. Well, that's a problem, because we said there's a line between those two, and I just crossed it. So what happens is I shoot him in a medium shot, and in my medium shot, if you can picture what I'm looking at, he's looking left to right. And then I go back over here and I shoot these guys, and they're looking left to right. Like, who are they all looking at? They're not looking at each other. There's some things that you get to know and understand in screen dynamics based on if somebody's looking left to right, and somebody else is looking right to left, they're talking to each other. That line is what keeps you from making those work out. So if this is the shot of the threesome, this is the shot of the instructor, we don't cross that line. Okay? There's a few other shots we need to get set up. We just got the instructor's lines up until the bottom of the scene. We need a close-up of Matt texting Cindy. Where's the camera going to go? I'm thinking, you guys can come up. I'm thinking the camera is probably coming up right over top. And I'm not sure if it's going on that side of them. I think it might need to be over here, again, from the audience point of view, that it's in that same place, in that, well, I don't think you cross the line, Don.
Sorry. So you want me in front?
Yeah, I think it'd be right here.
All right. You don't want to mess the...
Yeah, it doesn't matter if it's upside down. We might have to shoot an insert of that, but for him just texting, we need the person actually doing it. And a wide shot of him doing it might be like, what is he doing? He's got a phone. You might need to get a little bit more of a close-up in this. You might need to have him bring the phone up to here so that you can get his head and the phone in one shot without all this space in between. Does that make sense? Did you have a question? No. Okay. So I know on this page I need to get that close-up of Matt texting Cindy. I got a close-up of Jake's eyes are closed. I got a close-up of Matt's phone, which you write the text out on the phone and you shoot the phone. We're going to cut that in at one point while the instructor is continuing. The part with the instructor will come a little quicker because they're doing things in the room while he's going on and on and on. He's being really repetitive and kind of boring, and while he's doing that, this is keeping our interest, hopefully. So Cindy laughs. Something funny, Cindy, he says. We'll cover that again in a medium shot on the instructor. You go to page 2. And then again, this is what I figure I'll need to get this scene shot. I'm going to get a medium shot of Cindy, and I'm going to follow her as she gets up to the room. So maybe the camera is a little dolly move, and as she comes up, the camera turns and lets her get to the front of the room. The character development and the scene development dictates where the camera needs to go. So if you're thinking, well, when do I move the camera? What do I do? If people are in motion, figure out what the camera needs to do to tell the audience she just got up to the front of the room. You might also shoot it in a wide shot, just to have another version of her getting up, and you can cut the two together. Okay? So now she's up here, the instructor's up here, you create a scene. Now she's going to take over the control of the scene. She's going to control the close-up of the graphic that she brings up, surprisingly. And in the meantime, we need some shots of him in this scene, because we need him being overwhelmed by her smarts. We probably need some shots of those guys dumbfounded as well. And maybe some of the other room, there's no reason not to shoot other people in the room and just get a group of 5, a group of 2, a single person, and get more things than you may need. Because the more you get, the more you can bring into the edit and say, maybe I want to cut away a little bit. And I don't think I would do any motion. When I'm shooting and I'm cutting to those 2 and he's yawning, and I'm cutting to these 2 and they're sitting there and they're listening, I want that to be single shots. I don't want this thing. This thing is very slow, and it feels like amateur video where you just kind of pan rooms and things. I wouldn't bother with that. I would probably show what I want to show what I want to show in small shots, and then cut to those things in the edit. And your edit will go faster, and your edit will have more interest because you're not waiting for long, sweeping pans. You're actually shooting short shots and editing those in. So on page 2, real quick rundown on what these marks mean. If I were shooting this, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 shots on this page. Medium shot of the instructor, just the top of the page to the first mark, which is only a third of the page down. Doesn't have to shoot the whole scene that way. I don't have to shoot the whole page. I just have to shoot that beginning part. A medium shot of Cindy, giving all her lines. You might as well have done your whole page. You have so much on this page. I'd probably bring the medium shot all the way to the bottom, because the longer you can run that camera, the more you can get that you can use in one run. And she's also, as an actor, not starting and stopping, doing a line and stopping. Let her get into the character and let her build that character, and ultimately, the more you can let them have their screen time, they'll appreciate you for giving them a chance to actually act and not just start and stop. You don't have to go be there. Typically, you see a lot of student films and amateur films, and the characters are just reading their lines, or they're performing their lines. Well, actually, it's not mise en scene, it's pronounced mise en scène, and it encompasses the most. People don't talk like that. People talk in small bits and phrases, and they pause. Let your scenes breathe a little bit, though. The fact that your character got all the words out, that was a good run through. Do it again, and say, just let it be. Let it have some time. Typically, a lot of young filmmakers will do that. They'll end up having, okay, look, I got everything recorded. They said every word in order. And that's not good enough. That's only a good first take. Typically, you'll do it again because you're trying to create a little bit more. You're trying to get a little bit more out of a performance. There's marks on the left side of the page, 8/8, or it could be a 1 for a single page. typically you mark up pages when you're looking at your whole scene. This first page I marked 7/8 because this little bit at the top I kind of, usually you can cut the page in half. That would be 4/8 if the page ended here. You can put 2 more lines and you can say, well, it's either some part of that fraction, and then you know how long this scene is. This page is 7/8, this page is 1, so we're at 1 7/8. This page is 1, that's 2 7/8, that's a long scene. And then this is probably, that's probably 3/4 of a page, 6/8. So you have to figure out, what, 3 3/8 pages. Okay, that's a long day. That's a long scene you're going to shoot in this room. You better get a lot of different shots to break it up. And you better go get a prop van that says Hollywood Snake Wrangler, because you're going to need that for that shot. So that's where your producer comes in handy and gets a sign painter to make that up. This scene is probably too long. When she was talking about how smart she was and went on, that wasn't that dynamic. That could be cut down. So that on set you can even say, I'm not going to shoot this part, I'm going to go from here to here and tell her, just drop this paragraph. You can also shoot it and put it off in the edit. You can cut things out in the edit. But certainly, there are things you'll get the feeling on set, that part feels a little long for the rest of the scene. The idea is she's smart. Does she really need to go on for 4 paragraphs? So maybe not. Maybe we'll just say, just cut back either during the shoot. You can also come up with ideas on the shoot where you say, what would be good? Say this, let's change your line. This isn't set in stone. A script is a tool to kind of like be creative on set. It's a place to like be in a playground where she's working her lines and you're working your camera and I'm directing the action and trying to get a performance out, and we're trying to work it out as we go. It's art. It's not like it's just all finished. It's like, let's say this, let's record this. It's evolving. You may throw the whole scene out.